Hello everyone, welcome to Slogan's Rock and Metal Extravaganza. We're here today with another music hangout for our state-to-state obscurities. We're going to start off with a band from Mississippi, and it's actually a one-man band. He does the vocals, the guitar, everything, every instrument you hear, and the vocals is all one guy. And yeah, they're from Mississippi. It's pretty much Merciful Fate. Really, it's right on the nose. If you heard this, you'd think Merciful Fate or King Diamond. So yeah, we're gonna get into this. This is from 2023, actually. It's fairly modern. It's an EP, or a full length, but it's actually a short full length, 24 minutes, and then he also did an EP as well. We'll play that after. It's about 18 minutes or so. So we're gonna just get right into it. The band is called Stone Fang, and it's one guy playing everything from Mississippi. So we're gonna get right into this.
On the first day, man was granted a soul, and with it, clarity. On the second day, upon earth was planted an irrevocable poison.
Yeah, next is Valiant Warriors. That's the next one coming up here. The next one is Maiden in Black. Yeah, Maiden in Black. So. There's Half Living Sentinel is the next one. Half Living Sentinel. So I guess it's like a little intro, right? This next to the last one on this album, short album, 24 minutes, The Monumental. That's a cool little creepy fade out there. It's
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
cool album. Yeah, that's just a
good
short
stuff.
album. It's called an EP, but I mean that's or an LP, but yeah, it's 24 minutes. It's not really LP length. I guess it's too long to be an EP, but
Yeah, who knows how that goes? I never understand the whole EP LP. Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
because there's
that's good stuff.
only
Though. That last song, yeah, that last song is pretty killer. I loved all the changes and
oh yeah, there's only like 6 minutes in time difference between the LP and the EP, so it's kind of weird. The LP's got
yeah,
6 songs and the EP's got four, so it's kind of strange, but
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe he had all this stuff working together and he just didn't want to release it all at once or something. I don't know.
Yeah, strange. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. So yeah, the next one, their EP and from 2024, Demonstration of Soul Power, and that's the title track, and it's the first one. So we're gonna get to that one now. Once we get past these ads. Here we go. Here comes the Bloodsucker, Deep Purple cover. That's awesome stuff, man. Like, it's really
Oh yeah,
cool.
it's killer, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
Now
I
it
could have
makes
been
me want to go
watching.
listen to rock. It's been a long time since I heard it.
Yeah. Really? So that's like
Yeah.
a go-to Purple album for me. I've probably heard that the most. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
well, show a little image of him with. He actually met King Diamond. I went on his Instagram, and he's actually got a picture posted with King Diamond, and I think it's with the guitar player as well. That's a pretty
You
cool
definitely
picture.
tell it's where the influence came from.
Oh yeah, obviously you got pictures there with them too, meeting them, so it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
But I think he brings his own kind of thing to some of these songs. I mean,
Yeah,
he kind of throws in the King thing too in those songs, but you
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
it's impressive, man. Doing all that by yourself. Crazy.
Sam Kinison, oh come on. Oh well, it's not for everyone, I guess. Yeah. Playing Twisted Sister on YouTube yesterday, and the cat just laid down and chilled. Oh my god, what were you playing? I'm curious what song.
I'm Cat.
Yeah, I'm cat. I want a claw.
uh, Too
Well,
funny.
yeah. So we're gonna.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very merciful fate, but like put like his own kind of spin on it, and there's some
Yeah.
priest in there as well, and obviously some
Yeah,
purple covering
like
Deep
George
Purple
said,
there.
yeah.
So
Yep.
it's just
Yeah, like he has some like 70s tendencies in some of the riffs, and I heard even some Metallica in that last song on the first album. Seek
yeah,
and Destroy a little bit.
yeah, a little bit. Well, that was taken from something else too. So the Seek and Destroy riff is from something older too. I can't remember, but yeah, I think it was a Diamond
Might be
Head
some
riff.
Priest. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Diamond Head, yeah.
or even Priest. Yeah, probably. I think it was a Priest riff.
Cool, man.
Yeah, that's it for that one. We'll be back in 10 minutes with our next band, a band called Morning Star from Missouri. They're going to do their first album, and then we'll have a third video with their second album. So we'll be back in 10 minutes at 1 o'clock. So yeah, we'll see you then.